Alright, so today we're going to the Golden Cat, an interesting and wonderful place full of, well, actually it's not that wonderful a place, it's actually just filled with prostitutes, but anyways, that's where we're going. We're going to kill the Pendleton brothers and have a lot of fun. So, before we get into all of that, let us talk about Slackjaw. Yes, the Bottle Street Gang. If you go through that door right there, in front of me, that's where you go. I don't go there because I'm just trying to get to the level as quickly as possible, because, you know, I want to give you as much information with as much entertainment as possible, so it can't be like, 3 hours long, because there's just not that much enough information for me to fit into that period of time. So, without further ado, Slackjaw. So, Slackjaw's an interesting person. He was raised by a courtesan, which is why this kind of ties into the Golden Cat. So, Slackjaw is basically the son of a courtesan and a prince. He's the bastard son of a prince because, obviously, the prince didn't want anyone to know that he was sleeping around with prostitutes and, just left Slackjaw there. So he ends up on the streets because that's often what happens when, your wealthy father ditches you and you are the son of a prostitute. And he runs with a bunch of street urchins and, scallymuffins, I believe is what the book calls them? Ragamuffins, that's it. Anyway, so he's running with some ragamuffins, and, he ends up becoming the leader because the kids in their eyes, they say, it worked out better that way. We got more coin, we got more food, and we don't want to piss Slackjaw off because apparently he's very, very intimidating in a rage. He's not that way anymore, according to the author. He's more level-headed, and I guess that's good. But apparently when he was young, he was extremely unlevel-headed, and no one wanted to see him in a rage. But anyways, yes, so he is on the streets as an urchin, and eventually he gets to get a job from Black Sally, which is his first major break as kind of the Bottle Street Gang leader, and paves the way to make the Bottle Street Gang into a prominent gang in the city. So basically Black Sally, you don't really know much about her because she's not mentioned. Well, she's not really in the game, she's just mentioned and you hear about her. But what we do know is she's pale-skinned, green-eyed, has, hair as black as the void, and she loves knives. Lots of knives. Loves to cut people up. She is not scared of the City Watch and actually enjoys, dueling with them. Especially with knives. Very much likes knives. Anyway, so she gives Slackjaw kind of this break, this is his first job, and the rest of the gangs kind of recognize this, and they're like, oh, he's not just, this nobody anymore with just a bunch of people following him. He's actually, Bottle Street Gang's really a street gang, and all this stuff, we should take them seriously, and whatnot. So naturally, that causes trouble. So, what happens is, there's this other up-and-comer named Mike the Fish, and Slackjaw and his group is in a theater, and Mike and his group are also in the same theater, and Mike thinks it's a great idea to throw a spittoon at Slackjaw and just throws it at him, hits him directly in the face, breaks his jaw, and everyone's like, oh crap, now we're gonna end up fighting to the death, gang wars, and kill each other. But instead Slackjaw just points towards the exit and they all leave. And the next day, basically, he goes and gets a fish hook, like a large chain with multiple fish hooks for like catching whales. And they go and they find Mike the Fish at his house, and they break his window, and he comes running out, and he, Slackjaw just whips him with the chain, catches it around him, and I mean it's fish hooks, so he's completely trapped, very painful, and they basically. Slackjaw stabs him to death over the course of like half an hour or something. It's a really long fight. They're tied together. The chain's wrapped around Slackjaw's wrist, so he can't get away, and they're stuck together with this chain. And basically, he kills Mike the Fish. And subtle irony, he died by fish hooks, kind of, and a huge amount of knife wounds to what I assume to be the abdomen and other places. And so, then Slackjaw says, if you want a job, contact the Bottle Street gang, and leaves that note on Mike the Fish's body, and that's the end of Mike the Fish. And thus the beginning of Slackjaw, because that's where he got his name, is when the spittoon was thrown at him, it broke his jaw, and he went slack and hung loosely there. And Crowley explains in the book that, he's there with his jaw just hanging limply as he stabs Mike the Fish to death repeatedly in this really... Alright, so we're at the Golden Cat, and we just killed Madame Prudence. She's the one in the purple slacks, and she's also the one who created the designs for this building, and she created them to be this building to be much more colorful than the rest of Dunwall, and I assume that's because she wanted it to be kind of, a place to escape. Kind of the idea of escapism is, the rest of Dunwall is kind of dark and dingy and drab, whereas this is very colorful to kind of, help you escape reality and in the arms of a courtesan when you come here, and forget the rest of, whatever's going on in your life, whether it be that your minds are failing and you're horribly dying, or, you're starving on the streets or whatever, but kind of to escape. And Madame Prudence herself, we don't know too much about her, but what we do know is that she's not a very nice woman. If one of the courtesans, dies due to rough sex or some other craziness that goes on in this place, she sends a letter to Thaddeus Campbell, who we just killed in the last mission, because a courtesan is blackmailing him, and she tells him, next time, don't kill the courtesan yourself, just send her to me, and I will take care of that. Or, she doesn't say she'll kill the courtesan, but she'd much rather not have Campbell killing her courtesans. And who knows what she does to them, but the courtesans, we know, definitely do not like her, and they like her much less than the previous owner of the Golden Cat. I assume before the redesign, because she designed the place to be, colorful and stuff, and we know that. So I assume the Golden Cat was different before, and is now much more colorful. But yeah, so she's not a very nice woman. No one really likes her, and that's basically it on her. The other people we have to are, of course, the two men you have to kill, the assassin targets, the Pendleton brothers. And we know that Custis really does not like Lady Boyle, and this is probably due to the fact that her silver mines are still very prominent, they're producing a lot of silver, and his silver mines, the Pendleton silver mines, their silver mines are actually almost completely empty, and they're actually living on the streets, the Pendletons. Well, not on the streets, but they're barely able to afford what they have, so that might explain why they're always at the Golden Cat trying to escape reality. But yeah, they're actually really, really poor, because their mines have all dried up. Whereas the Boyles' mines, they're living in this ridiculous luxury, they have this huge house, and that causes a lot of, hatred between the Pendletons and the Boyle families. And so, that might explain why Custis makes one of the courtesans, Violetta, dress up as Lady Boyle. Well, she suggests it, actually. She's like, hey, let me dress up as Lady Boyle, and you can teach me a lesson. And he's like, yes, I want to teach Lady Boyle a lesson. That is exactly what I want to do. And I assume it's because, he doesn't really like Lady Boyle, and he's really kind of angry at the whole situation of his silver mines suck, hers are great, she's living in luxury that he once had, and he has to live in this horrible, drab environment, even though, he's constantly at the Golden Cat, but whatever. So, he does not like her, and, you kind of see why he wants that courtesan to dress up as Lady Boyle and teach her a lesson. Morgan, on the other hand, is the Pendleton known for unusual requests. It's also stated that he takes cruel pleasure in others' discomfort, so perhaps, maybe he's the one who set up the art dealer with that shock chair. I forget his name, but who knows? Or, maybe his unusual requests are sadistic in nature, or something like that. Something interesting about the Pendletons is they were conjoined twins. The heart says that they were joined at the hand, and that they were separated by a knife. So when they were born, it is to be assumed that, they were actually connected at the hand and conjoined. The heart also says that Custis's love for his brother is not wholesome, which I'm not entirely sure what that would mean, because it could either mean, that they're doing incest or something like that, but it could also mean that, like, he loves his brother to the point that, he's doing awful things, but he's kind of already doing awful things, so I'm not entirely sure what that's supposed to mean, but that's some thoughts on it. Another interesting thing about Custis this time is that Corvo probably took a special delight, in assassinating him, or, getting rid of him, if you do the Slackjaw method, where they cut out their tongues and sent them to their own silver mines to work. That's what happens if you go through Slackjaw's secondary missions and whatnot. But he probably took special pleasure in assassinating Custis, because at one point Custis made a really rude remark to the Emperor, and Corvo apparently ejected him from the meeting that they were in immediately. So, and this is according to Wallace. But yes, that's the end of the Pendletons and the end of this mission, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope there was some interesting things that you guys could learn and whatnot. If not, I'm sorry about that, but anyways, I hope it was entertaining, and we will see you next time.